Okay, this is the K1 utility knife tool review. I've actually enjoyed it quite a bit. It came in great condition. I could use it beautifully right out of the package. As a comparison, I had the screw pop and something very similar, the Nifun utility knife. So they're all very similar and very different at the same time. Starting off with the specs, we'll just go over the weight of them. As you can imagine, the Nifun and the K1 are almost identical. The sizes are identical. As far as the weight goes, they might be identical, but my scale says that the Nifun was 46 grams, while the K1 was 47 grams. Well, if you can tell that in hand, then you're a lot better than me. And this was using the exact same blade. Now the screw pop was 23 grams, literally half the weight. So in ounces, that would be 0.8 ounces for the screw pop and 1.6 for each one of these. And now for the size, obviously the K1 and the Nifun are exactly the same, versus the screw pop is also pretty close. The width is exactly the same for all three of them at 0.17 inches. The length for the Nifun and the K1, I measured at 3.25 versus the screw pop at 3.15. So a very minuscule amount different. Just an absolute tiny amount different on the length. Now, of course, the width is where the big change comes in. The screw pop being at 0.82 inches and the Nifun and the K1 being at 1.15. Now, as far as the packaging goes, the Nifun and the K1 came in exactly the same type of packaging. They both had this little tool here to add the little hex driver. They both had a little slot for extra blades. The blades were different. The K1 had black blades, the other one had just regular kind blades. But they all came in the same kind of pouch, same size, parts. It's just a little bit different. Now, what I do want to talk about is in every one of these, there is a magnet. The screw pop magnet was insanely strong. One of my biggest complaints about the screw pop was the magnet was so strong, it would actually pull things out of my pocket. It would actually take my flashlight out of my pocket and just come right out and fall out. And then fall on the ground, and that was a big issue. Now, what I did is I put in the oven till it reached 300 degrees, and that softened up this magnet to where it would no longer pick up anything out of my pocket. It's still definitely strong enough to hold a blade on the outside of it. And of course the inside it's there so the blade doesn't rattle around. Now these other two also have a magnet inside, but they're not quite as strong on the outside, even as the screw pop that I already made weaker. So keep that in mind. But they do their job in keeping the blade from rattling. The Nifun I actually put in the oven as well, and making that magnet even weaker. But this magnet is perfectly fine. The K1 is great because it's just barely enough to hold up this very light utility blade. Will not pull anything out of your pocket. Now, as far as ease of use, put a few of these in there. The screw pop, of course, just pull this up, put it in, and there you go. So it's very easy with one hand. You can lift this up, and then you can see what you're doing to line that up. Now, of course, it moves around quite a bit because it has this little railing or whatever you want to call that to actually hold it in place. And then it holds it in place back here. And then, of course, it has the magnet to where it's not moving around. There's no rattle. So, but again, I've modified this. The magnet was incredibly strong. Now it's just about right. It did have a bottle opener. It never functioned. I modified it to try to make it function. It still didn't function. It's very, very, very hard to use. It doesn't want to grab, and you're going to have to try many, many times to actually get it to work. Whereas the Nifun in this hand and the K1 in this hand, their bottle openers, both right here and right here, function very well. Most of the time, I will have to get 2 stabs at it. One to go and get the majority of it, and the other one just to pop it off. But they work pretty darn well. The Nifun Phillips, I could not find a single screw that it worked with. It was just shaped very weird. The K1, on the other hand, it actually functions, and I've actually used it on a few objects. Hence why on the Nifun, I just simply ground that off so that the point wasn't there, versus I'm leaving it on the K1. And for some reason, the K1 also doesn't seem to poke me as bad. I don't know why. I can't tell you. And of course, the big thing that's different with these is the internals and this button right here. These 2 buttons are a big difference. This button is very, very easy to push on the K1. It's so much nicer to feel. The length is nice. Everything about this is nice. This little button moves around, rattles, gets stuck, is hard to push in. It's kind of a pain in the butt. And the way this one actually came, it wouldn't function. I actually had to open this knife up and grind down the spring so that it would actually function properly. Now it functions now that I've ground it down, but I haven't had to do anything to the K1. It came and it just works. And you see it locks right in place. I can do that one-handed, no problem. Press the button down with this finger and then simply slide it out with my thumb until it clicks in place. And once it clicks, you can see it's got a very, very, very little rattle. It holds in place very, very well. Holds in place much better than the screw pop, and it also holds in place better than the Nifun. The Nifun has a lot more up and down wobble, but that is per its design, as it has a long spring that goes from here to here that the whole spring pushes up and down. Versus the K1, on the other hand, this is on a very small spring that doesn't run the length, but it actually runs up and down. It's just a very small up and down spring. And the same little lever action to hold the blade in is the exact same, but it's attached to just a piece this big, and that's it. That's the whole piece. And so it just functions much nicer. I have tried the hex. The hex works perfectly fine with any standard bit, as you can see. And like I said, it comes with a bit that you saw, and it's a flat head and a Phillips head with a little hole on it so that you can put it on a key ring, hold it in place. That way if you press it in here, it would actually hold, and you could press down and turn. So that's the idea anyway. I'm not going to put this on my key ring because those are sharp points and it'd be very annoying in my pocket. This is supposedly a spanner tool. I don't work on bicycles. I don't know what you'd use that for. Of course, you got the flat head on this side, which also works great as a pry tool. So, and I have used that. It works great. Has inch, has centimeters. So, and these are hex, by the way. So, I imagine you can get them to work with English nuts, but they are hex. I mean, they are metric for hex drives. And so, but they do work for the metric ones. I've tried them. And so, in short, it has definitely replaced my screw pop. The screw pop is lighter, and it is nice to be able to see, line up, but it just doesn't have the same functionality as the K1. Now, you may want to be able to take the screw pop and let it hang off the refrigerator or whatever you want, in which case The magnet it came with is perfect for that, and that's not going to work for these. And that would be my review / comparison. Thank you.